Well, welcome back to Becoming a Good Leader. Well, let me ask you this question. Is it possible that we, me, you, others, might make a statement before an event that might handicap us before we even try to do something? Have you ever done that? I know I have. And I'll make a confession here in a minute. But we call those self-handicapping statements. These are things that happen before we even try something, before an event. We create these self-handicapping statements. You know, the definition of this, if you look at your participant guide there, says that any attempt to justify poor performance before an event occurs. It's a public declaration, something you say out loud to people that are listening that actually is handicapping the situation before it actually happens. We do this. You say, no, I don't. Well, let me give you an example of ways that I've done it, the way I see others do it. I see students a lot say, well, hey, you know, before they take a test, they say, well, I can't make an A on that test. There's no way. I haven't studied hard enough, so I know I can't make an A. Well, that's a self-handicapping statement. Or we're looking at some type of athletic event that we're participating in. I do this all the time. Many of you know that I'm a Wake Forest football fan, and our history has not been very good. So a lot of times before we play a game, I'll say, well, I'm not sure we can win this week. Those are all self-handicapping statements. I'm trying to justify the potential poor performance before something happens so that I say this publicly so when it happens, well, I don't feel as bad about it. Well, what I'd like to help you and help me to do is to reduce those self-handicapping statements. You might say, well, why do I do this? Where do these come from? Well, remember, we've been talking about the thinking process. We've been talking about how things affect your thinking, how you get things into your hippocampus, your subconscious mind. And we hold that there. We also have beliefs that we have formed out of our experiences and things that have happened in our lives. And these core beliefs, these self-identity things, we've talked a little bit about that, they can cause us to think negatively about something in the future. And before it happens, we create a self-handicapping statement. Well, as good leaders, we don't need to do that. And we need help in understanding when we do it, and we need to correct that and not do that. It doesn't mean that something negative might happen here, okay? We're not talking just positive thinking overcomes something. What I am saying, though, is let's get rid of the self-handicapping statements and get into the actual event and actually do our best. We're not trying to handicap because of potential poor performance. Does that make sense? Well, that's what I want you to work on this week as you get with your, your bumper buddy and you guys talk about things. You know, one of the good things that I see a lot of times is that teams who are able to provide their leaders or their leaders are able to provide their teams feedback. We talked about that. Then this is how we can catch ourselves doing this. And if we do it, and we all do, we make that mistake, and somebody says, hey, did you know you made a self-handicapping statement? Well, guess what you can use? You can use a 6-step apology. And you can apologize. You can say, you know, I actually did that self-handicapping statement. I did it. I own it. You know, would you forgive me for it? You remember those 6 steps to the apology? You see how these tools can start working together to make you a better leader? But we need to work at understanding how our words are being used and how we're saying them. So I invite you this week to work on this, to identify maybe some self-handicapping statements. Now you may be saying, well, what's the difference between a self-handicapping statement and an excuse? Well, look at our diagram here. Self-handicapping statements always happen before an event, and excuses to poor performance, they happen after the event. So we don't want to make excuses out here either, but we want to have our best chance to do our best here. and we want to lead our teams into doing their best. So as leaders, we need to get rid of the self-handicapping statements. Things like, well, I don't have a very good team, and they don't do very good work. That's a self-handicapping statement. Or, hey, we don't have enough budget to do that, or we don't have enough time to do that, or this task is way too hard, or I don't like this task and we're probably not going to perform well. These are all self-handicapping statements that I hear a lot of times coming out of leaders' mouths, and it leads the followers into actually bringing to fruition those things that you have stated with your mouth. So I encourage you today to get with your bumper buddy, get with your cohort, work through these, try to identify these. And listen, the truth is it's best to identify these as they're happening. That's why we have to have this collaborative effort together to help each other to get better. We need one another. That's why you have a bumper buddy. And your bumper buddy should be able to call you out. And you shouldn't get defensive about that. You should understand that he or she wants you to get better. So bumper buddies help one another to identify self-handicapping statements and figure out what's causing it and how you can overcome it. Give that a try this week. It'll make you a better leader, because we know that you can become a good leader. Well, as always, I look forward to seeing you on the other side.